If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're back with another NECA review, continuing our line through NECA's trenches of Godzilla figures. You might have noticed I skipped Godzilla 2014. I didn't. It's because when I recorded that video, that was supposed to be for the 11th anniversary back in May. So if you want to go watch it, go to my review playlist and watch from there. Just noticing there's a bit of a scuff anyway. Today on this review, we're going to be taking a look at the NECA Shin Godzilla Godzilla 2016 figure. Except you might notice it says bootleg in the title. Yeah, this is a bootleg figure. Wham wham. Sorry. The reason why this is a bootleg is because I am not interested in forking out who knows like what $70-$80 for what the figure's going for on the aftermarket these days. And you know, this was relatively a smaller figure as far as the money's concerned. It was on AliExpress, so I decided, hey, why not? And I made sure to look at the pictures as to what actual like figure I was getting, and then tried to match the paint job close to the original, and I think I got pretty decent with it. Are there a bit of problems? Yes, but for a bootleg, spoilers, I was actually very impressed. So with that said, let's take a look at the bootleg Godzilla 2016. Technically its official name, not the NECA Shin Godzilla, because Shin Godzilla is the name of the movie, not the name of the kaiju. It's just Godzilla, so that's a whole other can of worms. So let's take a look at this guy. So first things first, starting off with the head. And I'll admit, the head has definitely seen better days. Now what I mean by that is, the head, it does look very well detailed. We have like a bunch of like these little cracks and crevices throughout the sculpt that was on the original. And I do like the way that it was painted, as far as the red in those crevices being a bit more controlled, even though Shin Godzilla is supposed to be a bit more chaotic than that. The eyes actually really well painted for a bootleg. Like, I thought they'd completely missed the mark on those. But no, the eyes, well, they do look a bit, I will say, this one's a bit out of alignment, I'll admit. And they do look like he saw something he shouldn't. As far as accuracy goes, I've seen way worse. Like, they could have just been Bandai's eyes and not paint them at all. But there's just something about the paint that just looks off. I guess primarily has to do with a little slack jaw. Actually, you know, let's talk about the mouth, since I do have some things to say. As for the mouth, it kind of looks like a certain private part that I would not mention, but as well, it also has a variety of different pinks, which kind of add to that illusion. The membranes are actually really well done as far as like the shape of them, but as far as the actual thickness of it goes, it's a little heavy-handed. I feel like even the original figure had the problem of the mouth being too small, or the membranes were too thick in a very small mouth, because Shin Godzilla had a very big mouth. This guy has a very narrow mouth, because like you can see that there's, technically speaking, so to speak, two separate pieces of the membrane together, two for the lower jaw, two for the upper jaw, and it just kind of gives this weird look. And I don't really know how to feel about that. But for the actual paint, we have a bit more of like a peach kind of color, and then we have a lighter magenta like pink for the outer gums. A bit of black in there, thrown in there too, a little bit of a throat hole. I don't know if that hole was on the original. It could have been. I'd have to track down the original. You know, maybe could happen soon. I'm not hinting at anything, not promising anything, but soon, maybe. For the teeth, they're all right. They're individually sculpted with, well, not individually sculpted in the sense of you can tell where the teeth are supposed to be, but the paint is a little iffy because it's mostly pink with like little divots of like the yellow paint on it, and it just looks a bit odd in some parts. The front actually looks pretty nice, but I don't know, it almost looks like they took the paint of the vinyl Shin Godzilla from Bandai and they applied it to a pink mouth. So, well, it's a bit iffy. Bottom of the jaw looks pretty good. Like, that actually looks pretty sweet. And the nostrils actually aren't too detailed, but they are there. So there's that. As for the neck, you're gonna see that there's a bit more segmenting down with the ridges on the neck. Hey, future me here. I'm recording this a few days ahead because I had to cut away and I'm at family's house right now, but I'm able to do this review still. So going back to the neck, you can see that it actually does carry quite a bit of the details we have. A lot of nice waves and patterns. It looks very impressive for what it actually represents or what it's supposed to be. I will say that there is a bit of a color transition, kind of color loss, where it's mostly just black and then there's like this solid line almost where everything down is entirely in that red, of which there's definitely crevices in where like gills, the wavy lines, more towards where it meets the chest, and kind of mirroring the opposite effect where it's definitely down here, but details kind of start. For the dorsal plate it's themselves, I personally feel like they could have been done a little better, but then again, it's primarily because of the way the original figure was designed, because I do have a bit of an issue when it comes to the stance of this Godzilla. But we'll talk about that when we get to the articulation. And the dorsal plates themselves are actually molded pretty well, only because it uses the NECA mold, which actually did have some pretty fine details. The largest, or the top dorsal plate, I will say, is a bit too large for my liking. I feel like if they were literally to JPEG it and square down a minuscule, that would have been a little better. At least my personal opinion. But we do have some nice black washes over some thick orange to red plastic being used, and so it does look pretty nice as well. I actually had to sand that just for the articulation to actually be a bit sound. So next we're going to go down to the chest, which, as you can see, we have a bit of a chest spike that's actually kind of pointy. Like that can cut somebody. For the like in ribs right here, the rib collarbone area, we do have some more of that nice sculpted details, and kind of getting the head here out of the way there for a sec. It does look pretty nice. Mine's got a bit of a scuff right there. I don't know if that's from me, because even when I try to move it, it doesn't really like grind up against the body. It kind of just seeps with it. Also, something I did forget to point out, I don't know if I actually did point that out, but there's a peg hole in there. I don't have my atomic breaths pieces with me because I didn't bring the Spitfire because I didn't think I was going to be reviewing it. Anyway, or at least this soon. Anyway, so back to the chest, we have like all the withered stuff, and it just looks very, very disgusting. And it looks very malnourished, very creepy and corroded. That's like the best way of describing it. It looks something that's so worn down, so bloody. And I feel like that's obviously what Shin Godzilla's aesthetic is, and that's what it captures greatly. I can't believe I'm praising a bootleg for looking this good. I will say as well that the black to red ratio is a bit improved when you get to the chest. For the like more outer parts here, it definitely looks more like organs. I mean, I know skin is technically an organ, but I mean like internally bodily organs like your lungs, your liver, your pancreas, things like that. This is almost what it has the texture of. Here for the arms, we have very small, veiny, minuscule arms that again just look very decrepit and almost useless, but trust me, if this Godzilla could fight, he would absolutely use them. Watch as he like friggin' like takes his arm and does like a Dragon Ball character, Kamehameha, or whatever something. Anyway, so we have some more of the red dry brushing in there and the wash, especially on the forearm where it kind of transitions from the black to the red to the elbow, or the bicep meets the elbow. And then here for the claws, which are actually pretty well done with the red, we actually have some dry brushing on this guy, which is shocking because I wasn't really expecting that, but hey, we have it. For the claws themselves, nothing too spectacular going on there. Kind of some basic bone gray applications going on. Has a little bit of colorization, but not too much going on there. Same with this hand, just so you can get a bit of look. There you go. For the legs, which are going to be big and meaty, again, it just looks shriveled up. It looks dead. Like, this is, if you want to make Walking Dead jokes, this is literally The Walking Dead. Because Godzilla looks so dead, but yet has never been so alive, has he? So for the red accents and such, it goes down all the way to the crotch. And to the right here, we have like all of this dry brush and wash. And we actually have a bit of a spike back here. To my knowledge, I think on the original, it's supposed to be a bit pointier and a bit bigger. But obviously, because it got bootlegged, they scanned the model and reused it like who knows how many times. For all I know, this could be a bootleg of a bootleg. It's too high quality for that. We do get some more like the same right here. It's a bit more pointier on this side than it is on this side. I'm trying to actually feel the difference. Yeah, a little bit pointier on this one. For the legs here again, shriveled up ridges, looks absolutely phenomenal. For the feet, not too much shading on the claws. We do have a bit of colorization. Underneath is how you can tell it's a bootleg, because there's no copyright info. Yeah, they actually decided to be smart and got rid of the copyright info, even though it's plainly obvious that this thing is a NECA figure. In fact, it was literally marketed as one. But for the feet, like, this foot is actually really well painted. If you told me that this was from the actual NECA Shin Godzilla, I probably would have believed you. But that said, we do have some red accents, which may not be so much accurate. Also, he's missing the extra toes, but that's more of a fault of the original design. Next, we're going to go back to the dorsal plates, and you kind of notice that there's a bit of a color difference, whereas this one was orange, this one is more red. And red shall be damned. Look at this. This is, in my personal opinion, the fiery hell itself. Look at this. Like, I will admit that personally, the detail does kind of get a little lost with the more thick red coloring at the base. But once the black kicks in, you can see it in all of its glory. Look at that. All the different dorsal plates, and it just looks really nice. I will say the black itself isn't like fully painted because the sides of them are not really all that painted in some areas. And they're also on the smaller end. Like the NECA Shin Godzilla original was actually at least a little bigger than this. I do plan on getting that when I have the money, because I actually did spend it on something you are going to see in this video as a little sneak peek. I don't want to spoil what it is just yet, but you will see. And finally, to end off the video, or well, the section of this video, is going to be the tail, which I feel like was NECA's. Again, I understand the concept of it. It was supposed to look like the movie, where it's supposed to be long. It was supposed to be in this stance of it being like curled up and then kind of curls down a mild bit and then curls back up again with the tail, a second face on it. But as you can see, all of the wash continues down to the tip, just to get a better look at that. All the reds and blacks fused together. I have a little bit of like a spike extension there. Want to show you the underside of him. I have a little bit of scuffing, but that's probably just because of the way this guy was packaged, because I did not order this thing with the box, just because of space reasons at the time. And I guess I got a little bit more red there. I will say that this one has a bit less red than this one does, so there's that. And finally, we get to the tail tip, which has the infamous Cheeto chunks and the lack thereof a second face. However, you notice that there's a peg hole, right? So my belief is that this tail was taken from the Spitfire Shin Godzilla version, just repainted into the original V1, and that's how they were able to get this. And maybe that some point this guy was also supposed to come with a beam, because the front mouth has it for some reason, even though he doesn't have the split jaw. Anyway, so in my personal opinion, what do I think for sculpt and paint? Well, as far as the sculpt goes, again, he has a very, very nice sculpt. I'm shocked at how good it is. Just kind of lowering him down. The paint itself is good for a bootleg. Compared to the original, I think it's on par. It's probably the closest I'm going to get for a little while. But that said, I think that the paint does hold up and actually holds somewhat of a candle to the original, which the original was actually pretty well painted. That said, it's not perfect. The mouth is a bit iffy in some parts, almost looking like a certain private part. The red in some areas isn't fleshed out as well as it could be, like, for example, the spines and some parts of the body, and it's a bit mismatched as well. And I overall think that as far as the details concerned, though really good, it definitely took a dive as far as like the quality is concerned. It's somewhere between, I would say, the Playmates V1 original release, which oddly enough used the NECA 2016 mold, and I would say probably this feels like a higher quality version of the MMS. So, of which I own the original and one of the many bootlegs that exist out there. So, with that said, how do I rate this? Because it's interesting, because it's a bootleg. Sculpt, I would say, gets an 8. The paint, I would say, also gets an 8. I would say 8 out of 10. Not bad. I would say it's quite good on this thing. That said, there's still some issues I could say. You know what? I would say 7.5 actually. Why? Because the design itself doesn't really... there's something wrong with the design, and I'll showcase in Articulation, which it actually does affect both sculpt and paint and Articulation. So next up is, well, you guessed it, Articulation. So for the head, the jaw specifically, we have a hinge at the jaw with the membrane that doesn't go far enough when you have it all the way extended, so open it to your heart's content, but only reasonably, I'd say. All the way he can open before it pops out about this far, close up about that far, but because of the jaw hinge being so loose, it was like this out of the box, mind you, or the wrapping, because it is from AliExpress. This jaw has definitely seen its fair share of days, and I can't really squish it back into place because it's made of a softer plastic and pops right back out. For the head, we actually have a barbell style ball joint, which is pretty free on mine. You can go look down, look up, left, and right, and swivel all about. If I had to say something, I'll actually get to that soon. The neck actually has a pretty good forward, pretty good back, so together you can look up, look down, to the left and to the right, and can actually swivel a bit. For the arms, you actually do get a mild ball joint here, so you can go up and down, as well as a near full. I can really only get it about up to here because of the way it's... no, I can actually kind of push it a little bit more. There you go. So you have to angle it the correct way in order to get it to do a full 360. Elbow can swivel right here and can hinge back and forth. Swivel a hinge for the wrist, so you can turn a full 360 as well as go like that. Mild ball joint here at the waist, although you're not going to get much range out of it. You can get a mild rotation, and I say very, very mild. And you can get a little bit of a rocker back and forth as well as there. For the hips, we can go a full, well, not entirely a full 360. Can you? Okay, there we go. You can kind of do a full 360. You kind of got to push it. But like again, because it would probably scrape up the plastic, I would not suggest doing that. I think this one can do it no problem. Yeah, there you go. So you can also go out to the side with it if you want to. Knees, this knee, at least on mine, can bend in and out like so, swivel like so, and 360 at the foot as well as a bit of a pivot, which this is a very good pivot. For this knee, you can swivel, but you can't bend. I've tried every trick in the frickin' book for this thing. I have tried heating it up. I have tried the dishwasher method, or the dish laundry soap method where you like loosen it up. I'm confident either they did cut out the look of the joint, but there's nothing cut in there. There's only the peg that allows for the rotation. There's literally no hinge movement. And if I push it too far, I'm going to end up breaking this. Then again, it's like a $25 AliExpress bootleg, so I could probably buy another one. Anyways, moving on. So you have 1, 2, 3, technically 4, 5 ball joints here at the tail. And you can go up, down, left, and right. And the base is going to be the most rotatable. There would naturally be a bendy wire here, but if you notice, the holes are covered up. That is because from here to here is entirely made of hard plastic. There is no wire in here. And also no, even though there is like a bit of a seam, this part of the joint or tail cannot swivel. That said, what seems to be the big problem that I've alluded to so many times? Again, it's mainly because of the original figure. So the bootleg ultimately suffers from this too, but I feel like what NECA did was just design the figure, didn't really take into account the articulation, but cut it anyway. And what I mean by this is that once you have it in this very specific pose, it's not going to look that great doing others. And it really shows as soon as you move the head. Like, watch as I move the head up. Does that look right to you? No. And that's why I meant this top joint was, the top spine, not top joint. The top spine was too high, either too big or too high up. I feel like it's just because of the size. If it was a bit smaller, then I feel like when it does this, it won't look so weird. Because if he does this, he just looks like he has a mohawk. A very backwards extending mohawk. That said, it doesn't really lend itself for the articulation. And while you could say, oh, well, all NECA Godzillas are like that, when I pose my NECA Godzilla 2014, which I do have on my person, I can actually get him into lots of fun, expressive poses, and it would look at least natural or fluid. If I tried just turning this guy's head, this doesn't really look 100%. There's something about the way that the Shin Godzilla figure was designed that I don't feel like articulation was included in the mind. It's almost like they were trying to make a statue, but they just forgot to do the articulation, and then they're like, crap, this is an action figure, we need to do this. So you can't really use a lot of it. So for articulation, I'm sorry, but you do get a fair amount, but I'm going to give this guy a 7 out of 10 for articulation. Not bad, but for the joints you do get, it's a little iffy. Now, I want to kind of talk about this in specific as the accessories, because speaking of which, he doesn't really come with any. He comes with 2 peg holes, 4 beams, but he doesn't come with any beams himself. At least my copy didn't. I do imagine others do, because on AliExpress I've seen the NECA 2019 V1 and V3 bootlegs come with their own beam effects. V3 came with a green, that is a wrong color. Reverse that. A red beam, and the V1 2019 Godzilla came with a blue beam. Keep in mind, of the official releases, the NECA V2 was the only one to come with accessories. Not gimmicks, not a little cardstock background made for the packaging style guide. An actual accessory beam that you can use with the Godzilla. So I imagine that somewhere out there is a bootleg NECA Shin Godzilla that comes with the V2's beam, much like the 2019 Godzillas. That said, I want to kind of talk about the attachment on this thing, which sucks. What I mean by that is this, in the 10 years I've been collecting Godzillas, to this year, by the way, as of this December, when my collection turns 10 years old, this thing has been the worst of any Godzilla figure or tail I've had to put on. Why? Because I had to get an electric sander. I literally had to trim it down to where it could actually fit. And even then, it wasn't budging. I had to heat it in. I had to boil it in hot water, which is probably why, as far as, you can see that there's not that much paint inside the socket there and there. But I had to do every method in the freaking book just to get this tail on. It was not fun. But eventually, I did get it on, and it was like, all that effort for a tail. I might as well have just bought the original. Whatever. Anyway, this is the one I have. So just be warned that if you do end up buying this thing, there could be that. And for some size comparisons, keep in mind I'm away from my setup, so I'm very limited as to what Godzillas I have. Here he is with the NECA Godzilla 2014 figure, and as I may mention, when I compose this guy, it looks a bit more fluid and natural versus this thing where it doesn't really look good in that amount of poses. That said, I also forgot to mention the feet are very loose on this thing, and as you can see, it's like impossible for me to actually get this thing. Okay. Apparently I did it. Nope, I didn't. Okay, I've just looked. Yeah, it's impossible for me to like get it like this and get it to stand, because as soon as I let go, there you go. So essentially the feet joints you're gonna have to either glue or tighten the hell out of. And for the last size comparison, and the one that I've been hoping to show off for a little while now, as in a few hours, the Playmates, what the hell's wrong with me? The SH Monster Arts Space Godzilla. Yes, this is the how do you pronounce that? The final battle variant. Essentially, that's what this is. I am proud to own this thing. Why? Because I've wanted a Monster Arts Space Godzilla for a little while now, just because I love the Playmates version, but damn, I need an upgrade. So I have this guy. He's great, and I'm so happy to own him. That said, I do plan his review eventually. Just give me some time to kind of round out my thoughts of this guy, because I did have to pay a pretty good price tag for this guy, but I think I walked away a happy camper. And for my final thoughts, what do I think of this guy? In particular, this bootleg, because chances are, you're probably not going to wind up with the same bootleg as I did. I'm going to be honest. I had mixed feelings about this guy. On one hand, for a bootleg, he's very impressive. He has a very nice sculpt, very nice paint applications, and a great range of movement. That said, I think he doesn't hit the same, you know? I bought this thing to substitute for an actual Shin Godzilla, or just to kind of like ride home saying, hey, I own a NECA Shin Godzilla. But I guess my mentality just really doesn't click that I own it, because I don't. I own the bootleg variant, not the original. And in all honesty, that's really what this figure's downfall is. It's a bootleg. The jaw joint pretty much sucks. The feet articulation isn't really that great. And there's a bit of like quality issues that are really darning, because like around the elbow, I actually had a piece that broke off just from me swiveling it. So it's clear that this is just a cheap imitation. I mean, of course, that's what a bootleg is. But at the same time, if you really want a Shin Godzilla, and if you are not willing to fork out the money for a Monster Arts or the NECA prices of the aftermarket, I would honestly say just wait for Haya Toys to make one. Because I'm pretty sure with their classic line that they're going to tackle Shin eventually. It's bound to happen. And plus, with the new movie coming, well, not the new movie, but the new re-release of Shin Godzilla, I think it's the perfect time. So that said, if I had to recommend the bootleg, only as a substitute. I do still plan on hunting down the original, so at that point, this guy becomes obsolete. So, that is my personal recommendation. Also, look at the reviews. If you want a substitute for a Shin, look at the reviews, look at the listing, see the quality that other people are getting. I did the same, and this is what I got. I'm decently happy with it. I'm grateful to own it. I say that about every Godzilla I do. But as far as the quality goes, reviewing it as a critic, it is decent. I can really give it that. So, that said, steer clear of this bootleg if you want to support official Godzilla stuff from Toho or Legendary. That said, I'm going to be hunting down the original. I'm close to, not quite there yet, close to. So, with that said, my final score is going to be a 7 out of 10. A bit of a weak entry, but then again, it's not necessarily an official entry. You're going to have to wait till my actual review to come out. That said, that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.